What's up guys, it's Carmichael here and I'm the Mindset and Performance Coach for Poker Ambition. Over the past few months, myself and Rene have been working hard to provide you guys with the best content and coaching experiences to turn you into the best poker players you can be. Rene will continue to provide you with expert strategy and technical knowledge, and I'm going to start producing more mindset and performance content for you guys to help you to level up. So if you do enjoy this type of video, make sure you smash that like button before you go so we know to bring you more valuable content like this. With that being said, let's dive into today's video. In today's video, you're going to learn why solvers are killing your poker profits. A bit of a strong claim, I know, but by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why most players misuse solvers, and as a result, they don't learn or retain information as well as they could. And also, by the end, I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do to maximize your learning and use the solvers in that model. All right, so make sure you stick around to the end for those. So, back in 2016, maybe slightly before 2016, there was no such thing as solvers. All right, so poker players had to do a lot more thinking. All right, so poker players would generally hypothesize, they'd write down strategies, they try to come up with ideas that would exploit the players they were up against. All right, so they used to do a lot of thinking and they talk a lot more talking between players in terms of what strategy to use, which got the brain very engaged. All right, so there's a big learning process involved. However, before solvers, players didn't really know what the optimal strategy was. They didn't know what GTO looked like. They didn't know what they were striving for. It's like having a test, but never knowing the answers at the end. All right, so as much as you're trying to optimize, you never know what the answer is. All right, so then come 2016 or around that time, solvers come out. And everyone's just like, boom, 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 boom. Oh my God, we've got all the answers. It's like taking a maths quiz, then realizing, wait, all the answers are on the back page. So you skip to the back page, you're like, oh, this is so much easier. All right, so over the last 5 years or so, there's been a massive learning curve, a massive growth curve in people's knowledge because they're now able to know what optimal strategy looks like. So we think, all well and good, solvers have helped everyone become amazing poker players and have helped them to learn and retain that information. But actually, that's not the case, or it's not the full story. All right, so in today's video, I'm not going to talk about whether you should be using a GTO strategy and using solvers and following them, or whether you should be using an exploitation strategy and exploiting your player pool. All right, we're not going to dive into the exploitation versus GTO debate. But today, I'm going to talk about the mind and the brain's ability to do 2 things. All right, as a poker player and you're using solvers, surely there's only 2 things you care about. All right, and those are learning, so learning knowledge, strategies, how to play, and retaining that information. Memory, so the ability to learn and the ability to remember. All right, so when you're using a solver, you're generally running a sim, running a spot, and you want to know how to play that spot and remember how to play that spot so that you can apply it into your game. All right, if you're using solvers for any other reason than that, please let me know in the comments, and you should maybe start thinking about what you're using them for. All right, but we're basically using solvers as a way to know answers to problems, poker problems, so that we can play better poker. All right, so in essence, it's an amazing thing. All right, so let's say we have a hand and we're unsure of how we played it. And then at the end of the hand, we can basically stop our session, run a solver, and then get the answer to that spot. I should have done this, I should have done that. All right, now I'm gonna go with some real life examples first and then come back to the poker examples, but I'm gonna show you why that is ineffective for learning. All right, why using a solver to tell you the answer is ineffective for learning. All right, so first of all, imagine you're in a maths class, all right, and you're starting to learn algebra. All right, let's say you learn the basics of algebra, 3x plus 2y equals 6x or something like that. All right, and at first, you don't really know what you're doing. All right, so imagine the teacher tells you the basic concept. Okay, this is what we're trying to do here, and then they give you 10 minutes to think about how to solve the problem. All right, so you then spend 10 minutes trying to think about it. You're really getting the brain engaged. What's the answer? How do I solve this problem? The teacher then says after 10 minutes, explain to your friend or someone next to you how you came up with those solutions. All right, so you went through a process trying to solve the problem, and now you're trying to explain why you did it. So you go, oh, well, I think you do this, I think you do that. All right, now, so 15 minutes have passed by now, and now the teacher's gonna go, okay, are you guys ready for the answer? What's going to happen when you get the answer? All right, so now the teacher gives you the answer. 2 things happen. Either you were right and you validate yourself and go, yes, I got it right. And your mind goes, boom, 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 like almost like dopamine hits, well done, you got it right, or you got it wrong. Now the good thing is when you get it wrong, the brain still, because you spent this time in advance trying to prep yourself, the brain starts going, well, why did I get it wrong? What can I do different? All right, so there's two things. It remembers the answer, the actual numeric answer in this case. In your case, it'll be the solver's answer. And it also looks for ways, if it was wrong, how can I improve? What can I learn from this? Why did I get it wrong? All right. On the flip side, imagine the teacher just said, okay, this is the equation, 3x plus 2y, and in the next 5 seconds, put your answer in. And let's go like that. And go, okay, here is the answer. Now, when they give you the answer very quickly like that, you don't remember it because your brain wasn't engaged in the process. Even if you got it right, you're like, don't really notify it. But if you get it wrong, your brain doesn't ask why. All right. So let's bring it from the maths classroom into the poker tables. All right. And you're trying to figure out strategies on the fly. Now you play a hand of poker, and at the end of your session, you run that hand for the solver. Now, what a lot of players do is they get very lazy in this process and they just go, the solver will tell me the answer. All right, so although you think you're being curious by running a simulation through a solver, your brain is not engaged in the process. If anything, it's disengaged because like, I don't even need to think about the spot. Solver will do it. I don't even, this is a close spot. I wonder what I should do here. Imagine it's a close spot. I wonder what I should do here. Back in the day pre-solvers, players would have spent a lot of time on those spots. All right, what should I do here? This is really close. Let me think about it. And then they spend time debating it, writing stuff down, trying to understand it. Whereas now you go, well, let's see what the solver does. Oh, the solver bet's there. Okay, cool. Must be a bet. And you quickly go from the problem to the answer like that. Well, it depends how quick your computer is running the sim, but it's a quick process. The problem is your brain is not engaged. All right. So what do we need to do? How do we solve this problem? All right, because obviously solvers have been a great aid to the game overall. They've helped the learning curve improve a lot. The standard's definitely improved for solvers. But how can we have the best of both worlds? How can we engage the mind and use solvers? All right, to get the actual true answers and true GTO frameworks to look at. All right, so first of all, we need to engage our curiosity. All right, curiosity is the key. I did a video on this recently as well, talking about how high stakes players use curiosity more than low to mid stakes players. All right, and the reason curiosity is so powerful is it engages the brain. All right, so remember, there's two things we're trying to do when we're trying to learn poker. We're trying to use solvers. First is to learn the information, the how. All right, so the brains, the chemicals of the brain, when you're curious, that get sparked are dopamine. Dopamine pathways get firing, which aids our ability to learn. All right, so dopamine is like kind of the reward / motivation molecule that gets us to seek things. It gets us to seek things, but it also gets us to learn from those things. All right, the things that we're pursuing, if we get rewarded for it, either positive or negative, it notes that. All right, so it helps us learn. When we're curious, it also sparks a part of the brain called the hippocampus. All right, so the hippocampus fires, it activates when they do studies on this, and that helps with memory. All right, so both the ability to learn and the ability to remember are hinging, or not hinging, but they're definitely compounded massively by our ability to be curious. All right, so we've got to spark curiosity. I've actually wrote down a quote from Einstein, of all people, the genius Einstein. He says, "I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious." All right, if Einstein is only curious, and he's not a smart guy, what use have we got, right? So we need to be curious. We need to spark curiosity. All right, so hopefully you guys are thinking, all right, yeah, a lot of you guys think I've been lazy with my approach to studying. I do use solvers a little bit too much. So for this video will be the most helpful for you guys who use solvers as your cheat sheet, your way to get the answers, and you almost do it quickly, easily, without putting much effort in. These next three things I'm going to tell you will be a very big benefit to you. All right. So I'm not here to say don't use solvers. I'm not here to say that you should be exploiting or anything like that. I'm here to tell you the pitfalls of using solvers to give you quick answers. Now, the good news is we can do three things when using solvers that allow us to get magnified learning, exponentially more learning. All right. So there's going to be three approaches. So write these down and make sure you apply them after you've learned them. All right. So the first thing is, imagine you've played a hand of poker and you want to run it into the solver. Most players just go straight from hand to solver. They might tag loads of hands for a session, then run them at the end. All right. Before you do that, I want you to ask a simple question. And you're going to ask yourself, what do I expect to see from the solver? What do I expect to see from the solver? In scientific terms, this is called setting a hypothesis. All right, so when scientists do experiments, they set a hypothesis, which is, what do I expect to see? What am I hoping to prove or disprove with this experiment, for example? So for you, what do you expect to see? Also, what do you not know already? So what do you expect to see, and what do you not know? You may not know how to play the spot, so you might go, I don't know what bluffs the solver's going to use. I don't know what value hand's going to use. This what question engages the brain, all right? It gets you curious. It starts asking, like, what am I trying to see here, all right? So when you get the information, you're more likely to remember it, all right? So this is sparking curiosity. This is magnifying your ability to turn on the curious part of your brain, all right? And the chemicals in your brain, dopamine will fire, and your hippocampus for memory will also fire just by asking these questions. Learning is an active process, not a passive process. It reminds me once when I was playing a regular and I was heads up battling with him, and I had a spot to run through a solver, and I remember being pretty confident in how to play the spot. I was like, oh yeah, I'm expecting to see this, but I got in the habit of writing down what I was expecting to see, and I wrote down a few bullet points, 2 or 3 things that I expected to see, and I was pretty confident. I was actually just checking just to give myself a pat on the back for my strategy. I'm sure you guys can relate. You check in just to give yourself a bit of validation that you are playing right. So anyway, I run this spot through the solver, and I just spat out everything that I did not expect to see. Like, everything I thought I was going to see, I didn't see any of it. And I was like, whoa, holy shit. Now, because I wrote those questions down, because I was priming myself to what I expected to see, I almost got like a jolt of like, shit, what the hell is this? And my mind got very, very curious. How have I messed this spot up so badly? All right, how have I messed it up so badly? If I didn't write down what I expect to look for, my mind might have been like, oh, this is weird. All right, interesting, not sure about this. But because it was so different from what I expected, I then started going, well, which other spots am I completely misplaying? Which other spots are similar to this when my frame of logic is so far off? And rather than like judging myself and getting annoyed about it, I went on a rabbit hole for an hour just assessing this spot, just going, how have I misjudged it? What am I not understanding? All right, which then leads me into the next question you guys need to ask. So after you've asked the what, ask why. Ask why the solver does what it does. All right, why does the solver use these bluff combinations? Why does the solver bet at this frequency? Why does the solver use these hands for his big bets, these ones for his small bets? Really think about it, all right? And actually write down in your own words why you think it does what it does. This is a huge one, all right? Especially if the solver validates what you do, you can almost skip the step a little bit, but still write things down to like double down on that your theory was right. But if you get it wrong, if you're off the mark, or if you don't understand certain parts, even if you don't know the answer, hypothesize, why would it do this? All right, and this is, the solver can't tell you why it does what it does, unless there's some advanced solvers I don't know about. You can't go into the solver and go, tell me why you were using these things. You've got to use your mind. You've got to engage the brain. Get curious about why the solver is doing what it does, all right? So when it doesn't give you the answers you want, or it's something that you didn't know, write it down. Why? Or ask yourself, why is it doing this? And try to hypothesize. That gets the brain curious, gets it thinking, and gets you engaged in the process. And the final step is to ask yourself how you can apply this into your own game. How can you apply what you've learned into the games you're playing? Also, you could say when you're going to use it. Like, what spots are you going to use this to? But it's kind of the same question. How can you use it for you in your games right now? All right, if you're looking at a solver strategy and you're playing $2 games, you might go, oh, this is good theory, but my opponents do nothing like this. I'm not going to be able to use this technically, but I could use it in these situations. All right, so how are you going to use it? All right, and write a few bullet points. How are you going to use this information into your game? All right, so you've gone through a process there. Rather than you trying to go from a hand that you've played to a solver, to memorize the solver and think it's just going to install into your brain. Oh, I've looked at the sim, therefore it's gone in. You've now done 3 things that spark the brain to learn and retain information. First thing, you ask yourself what you're expecting to see in advance. This gets you curious, and then the brain starts firing the right chemicals to actually engage with what you're going to see. So it's like preempting what you're going to see. So when you see the information of the solver, the mind is engaged. All right. If you don't do the what questions, you won't be engaged with what you see. It's just numbers and formulas and whatever. All right. Then you ask yourself why. Second question, why you've seen what you've seen. So now you're digging behind the surface. You're trying to understand the mechanisms, all right? The mechanics behind what you're seeing, all right? Why does it do what it does? And you're going deeper than just the surface level answer. And then finally, how can you apply it? How can you apply it into your game, all right? And that's going to give you the use cases, and you're actually going to start using it in your game as a result and experimenting with what you've learned, all right? So what, why, how? This gives you a massive, massive advantage on every other player. I say every other player, there's obviously a lot of good players and players out there who are using these approaches already. But if you're not, most players will not be doing this. They'll be very passive. They'll be using solvers as their kind of cheat sheet. It's like flipping to the end of the maths quiz and looking at the answers, and they're getting lazy with their thinking. As a result, it's killing their profits. They're using the solver as their kind of second brain, and they're not sparking the curiosity. And as a result, they can't learn. They can't retain information. They're trying to memorize graphs, formulas, charts, but the brain's not engaged, and the brain, unfortunately, doesn't learn that way. Learning is a very active process. We need to engage the brain in order to learn. Alright guys, so you guys probably thought I was going to bash solvers in this video. I actually didn't. I talked about the kind of pros and cons, and hopefully I'll give you guys 3 things to do when you are using solvers in order to maximize your learning. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, give me a like. Also, drop a comment below to let me know this was interesting to you and was of value. And there's going to be plenty more coming from me very soon.